I thought I was trading one night for my freedom. But when my landlord's hands taught me how my own body could betray me, I realized too late, the most expensive debts are the ones you enjoy paying. The fifth eviction notice fluttered to the floor as I opened the door. Mr. Harris stood in the dim hallway, his tailored wool coat dusted with late November snow. The scent of his cologne, something expensive with vanilla and tobacco notes, wrapped around me like a noose. Julia. His voice was smoother than the bourbon I'd been drinking. We're well past polite reminders. I tightened my robe, acutely aware of how the thin silk clung to my damp skin. The shower had run cold again, another thing I couldn't afford to fix. Mr. Harris, 3 months. He stepped inside, his leather gloves brushing my waist as he passed. $8,400. The numbers landed like punches. The bank starts foreclosure proceedings next week. The apartment seemed to shrink under his gaze. My thrift store furniture, the empty fridge, the stack of maxed-out credit cards on the counter, all laid bare my desperation. His fingers traced the marble countertop. You have 2 choices. Cold metal pressed into my palm, his keys. My penthouse. Tonight. Or. He nodded to the eviction notice. Ice slithered down my spine. The keys burned in my clenched fist. When his thumb brushed my lower lip, I didn't pull away. The elevator opened directly into his foyer. Crystal chandeliers refracted light across black marble floors so polished I could see my reflection. Pale, wide-eyed, robe clutched like armor. Champagne. Mr. Harris handed me a flute without waiting for an answer. The bubbles stung my tongue, too dry, too expensive. His study smelled like old money and Cuban cigars. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the city glittering below us, a kingdom he owned, where I was just another debtor. Knees. The Persian rug scratched my bare knees. His belt buckle clicked like a gun safety switching off. I expected cruelty. What I got was worse, patient expertise. The way his fingers tightened in my hair just enough to make my scalp tingle. How he groaned when I hesitated, the vibration traveling straight to my core. Good girl. 2 words unraveled me more than any touch. Dawn painted the silk sheets gold. My body ached in places I'd forgotten existed. Mr. Harris stood at the window, already dressed, sipping espresso like he hadn't ruined me hours earlier. You're more talented than I anticipated. He set down a black Amex. 10,000. For last night. The number made me lightheaded. More than I made in 3 months at the diner. His smile was a razor. I have friends who'd pay triple. The espresso turned to acid in my stomach. 2 men. Tomorrow night. He slid a photograph across the table, a penthouse even grander than his. They enjoy shared experiences. The card taunted me. Enough to pay rent. To eat. To breathe without the constant weight of failure. I reached for it. His laugh followed me out the door. The dress arrived in a black box, Versace, according to the tag I googled later. The silk slithered over my hips like liquid, the plunging back held together by mere whispers of thread. They'll want to ruin you in this, Mr. Harris murmured, adjusting the neckline until my nipples nearly peeked over the fabric. The penthouse smelled like money and masculine cologne. 2 men waited by the wet bar, one blonde and broad like a Viking, the other dark-eyed with surgeon's hands. Julia. The blonde took my wrist, his thumb finding my racing pulse. We've heard stories. The dark one circled behind, his breath hot on my nape. Let's see if you live up to them. I expected shame. What came was worse, arousal, hot and insistent, as their hands mapped my body with clinical precision. The Viking lifted me onto the grand piano. The surgeon knelt between my thighs. And when Mr. Harris finally joined, his teeth at my shoulder, his fingers twisting in my hair, I shattered. 6 months later, my checking account glowed on my phone screen. $87,652. Enough to disappear. To start over. Mr. Harris's text arrived as I packed. The Russians want you tonight. $50K. The number should have tempted me. Instead, I traced the bite marks still visible on my inner thighs, some from him, some from his friends, all reminders of what I'd traded. My reflection in the airport bathroom mirror was unfamiliar. The girl who'd opened the door to him was gone. In her place stood a woman who knew exactly what her body was worth. I silenced my phone. The champagne in first class tasted like freedom. The debt paid in full. Conclusion. The final envelope sat heavy in my hands, thicker than all the others. Inside, a bank statement showed a balance that could finally buy my freedom. $122,400. More than enough to disappear. I stood naked before the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse, watching dawn bleed across the city that had devoured me. My reflection told the true story, hips bearing faint bruises from last night's client, collarbone dusted with the bite marks Mr. Harris always left like a brand, lips swollen from things I'd once pretended to hate. My burner phone buzzed on the marble counter. 3 new messages. Mr. Harris, the Saudis asking for you. $75,000. Unknown. Heard you take twins. True. Bank alert. $25,000 deposited. 6 months ago, I would have trembled. Now, my fingers traced the scars along my inner thighs, each one a ledger entry in the accounting of my survival. The first cuts had hurt. The 100th barely stung. I packed nothing but the black Versace dress and the knife I kept taped beneath the mattress. At the door, I hesitated just once, glancing back at the bed where I'd learned my body wasn't a prison, but a weapon. The elevator doors closed on my old life. When they opened in the lobby, I didn't walk like a woman who'd been broken. I moved like someone who knew exactly what she was worth, in dollars, in flesh, in the quiet power of debts finally paid. Somewhere over the Atlantic, I sipped champagne and watched my phone's final message glow before tossing it into the clouds. Mr. Harris, you'll be back. But the joke was his. He'd taught me too well. The new passport in my purse bore a different name. The bank accounts in Zurich held more money than he'd ever imagine. And the smile I gave the handsome stranger in 3B. That was the only thing I didn't have to fake. After all, the best students always surpass their teachers.